Hey everyone, welcome to I guess the Flip Flappers series review. Just decided to just do this because I'm a little late. Obviously, we didn't do it until episode 10. But yeah, I have Skyline with me
Hello, everyone.
and a special guest. I was gonna ask you earlier, I forgot to say. What do you want to be called? Elogens or just Nat or what do you prefer?
Natasha's just fine.
Okay,
Yeah,
that
Natasha's great.
works. But yeah, as you hear, we have a guest. I guess we can talk about your blog a little bit later if you want, or you talk about it now if you want. Like I guess
Do it now.
a
Do
plug if you
okay,
want.
okay. My name's Natasha. You can also find me as Illagines on Twitter. I help run the blog. Isn't it electrifying or Shibireudaro at .wordpress.com with four other bloggers. We just kind of we used to do episodic blogging, but more or less nowadays we just kind of blog whatever we want. Lately, I have been talking a little bit about flip flappers, so I thought it'd be cool to join this and yeah, talk about the show since I'm a big fan of it. So yeah.
Yeah, I saw like when it was airing, Twitter kind of exploded with a bunch of people just, just being drawn to that series. So I was like, might as well bring a guest to their perspective. Since me and Ellen kind of talked about it weekly as it was airing. So,
Oh God, yeah.
yeah, and just getting to I guess jumping into it. What did you guys think when you, I guess, did you see a trailer for this or what? What? Because for me, it was a trailer I saw and just the animation they're using. I was like, to me it screamed a trigger show just based off the animation style. And I was, what did you guys think when you saw like a trailer or maybe first episode? What did you guys think after that? Like, were you hooked or wanting more?
Well, I saw a trailer for it.
Mm-hmm.
I had no idea what it was about. I
Oh yeah, yeah,
honestly saw the trailer from an animation perspective. So it was just like a bunch of Sakuga people being like, "Oh man, this is gonna have some cool animation," and like, I was like, "Oh, that's great. I'll add it. I'll keep it in mind when the season starts." And
mm-hmm.
I actually didn't start Flip Flappers till like 5 episodes in actually,
Right.
just because the season was just so heavy. Like I was watching like six or other things or seven other things, and like just purely because of that, I was like, I can't. I'll get to the show when I can. I don't know when that is,
Right.
but sooner or later. And then a lot of people were just like, Natasha, you should watch this. Natasha, you should watch this. This is really like up your alley. Like this is something I think you'd enjoy. And I was like, okay, fine. And then I marathoned it, like the first six, I think, or seven episodes, and I was totally hooked. So,
Nice.
yeah.
What did you think about Sky?
Um, I mean, I probably went first by previews and commercials that came out for it that were available online. I was just looking over what I was thinking during the fall anime catalog that we did. Not the catalog, but the
Preview.
introduction
Yeah, yeah.
that we did. And I thought that just it looked pretty much like generic Mahou Shoujo right from the very beginning, with kind of nutty animation and different
Mm-hmm.
things like that. I was more interested then in its potential because um, I really enjoyed the previous two features that Studio 3HZ brought out, and that was one of my personal favorite shows. Uh, goodness, Sora no Method, and then they also had that follow up with Dimension W,
Right.
and
Yeah.
both of them I felt didn't finish very well. So I was looking forward to seeing maybe if the third time was a charm to see that maybe, just maybe, they'll learn all the lessons, or if there were lessons indeed for them to learn, maybe they thought they ended them fantastically, and just to see if like, oh, it's a third series, so they're going to make a really really neat ending to it,
Mm-hmm.
and just bring everything together.
Right.
So
And yeah, I kind of agree on that. I mean, I
mhm.
was thinking that too. Dimension W, way it ended was rushed, but like you said, the third time the charm type thing with them, and
Yeah.
you know,
That, and when it comes to things like Sakuga, I'm a little less impressed than a lot of other people
mm-hmm.
are, because animation is animation. It either looks good or looks bad. But to me, story is always going to be first and foremost, and that's a lot more difficult to delve into, and a
Right.
whole lot more subjective than Sakuga. Because with great animation, it's like everyone's automatically going ooh or ah, and then every time bad animation comes out, it's quality. There's always just
Right.
those
Yeah.
two poles that people go between, and with story, it's kind of like, I don't know.
Right. I mean,
Let's
there's certain studios that excel at great animation, but they're not very good at storytelling. GoHands and Wit Studios are kind of studios that are the Michael Bay of anime to me. They just have these cool visuals, They
Yeah,
don't really have very good
but
stories
crap
going
story,
on.
just
Right.
absolute crap. I mean, they sometimes it's just to the point to where they can't even get the basics of screwing it up right. They have to
Right. Right.
screw it down. It just never really seems to come out right.
Right. I mean, I think that's the thing with like this show. That a lot of people are drawn to it for different reasons. For me, since I draw a lot of pictures and stuff, I'm drawn to it because of the animation, the style, that kind of thing. Some people may be more interested in, like you said, the story. I mean, Flipflopper's story. I know a lot of people had problems with the first 3 episodes. The story was just kind of there, but no one knew what was going on. That was the biggest
I
complaint I saw from the first preview. A lot of people complaining about they didn't know what was going on in episode 1. And I'm just like, you guys gotta wait. It's gotta build up, It's
I
gotta get there.
I kind of knew exactly what was going on by the time of episode 1, but that's just because I think I don't demand that it does anything. I just let it do what it has to do and listen to it.
Right. So I guess we're talking about the story. What do you guys think of the story? I can start with you, Nat. Like, anything you think they messed up on, or maybe left out? There's a few things I had, but I'll wait.
For me, starting with me.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. I love the story. I think it was great from start to finish. I do think that there was a slight pacing issue between the last 2 or 3 episodes, but
Yeah.
other than that, it was absolutely fantastic. Like narratively, thematically, like I really like the characters. I think they all, for the most part, got some pretty decent screen time to flesh them out. Not necessarily as the most compelling characters, but at least you could get their perspective on things, and I think that was important. Since I feel like primarily the show focused on Yayaka, Kokona, and Paprika, those three, I definitely feel like I got to know them pretty well.
Oh yeah.
I do know that there is a bit of discussion regarding the kind of narrative or tonal shift from the first, I'd say, 8 to 9 episodes, and then the last 4, which I mean I think is definitely something we can all talk about probably later on in this podcast. But I personally didn't have any issues with it. I think it thematically fit. I think it worked. So honestly, I feel like it stuck. It was a solid show from solid beginning to end. Like it stuck the landing, had a great premise, really interesting stories and worlds, and a fabulous small cast of characters. So yeah,
Right.
I
Yeah.
liked it
Yeah.
overall.
I agree. All the shows that have 10 plus characters really miss the mark on a lot of things. Characters get shafted on the side. They get no screen time.
Brave Witches.
Yeah, Brave Witches being what a 12, 15 cast almost characters.
Gosh.
And that's what I feel like Boku no Hero Academia was like that. There's a
Yeah.
lot of characters that they don't get to see or interact with much, and they're important characters, but not till later on. But yeah, Flipflopper's focusing on just the 3 was a pretty good idea. Even though I felt kind of Yayaka near the end kind of got pushed to the side because
Well,
her
she
story's
pushed
done.
back.
Right, I know, but her
My
story was
Yayaka
kind of
pushed back.
after she did her reveal that she could transform too, just like the other 2. They
Yeah.
kind of are okay. Well, her story's done for now. And at the end, she kind of keeps Coconuts rabbit. I guess that's her pet now. I guess it's kind of weird, but
That was so weird.
so yeah,
It was very interesting. Yes.
so yeah, I think all the characters. I think she's the only one that really got. I mean, we got her story fleshed out. We knew her background. We knew they revealed the whole. She was sent to spy on Coconut, keep an eye on her for the organization she was with. So that was kind of interesting to seeing that play out. But yeah, the main focus being on Coconut and Paprika's story, how they meet, and I liked how in the beginning Coconut was the girl. She was just like, I'm not gonna join your adventures. Like, no. Typical anime would have been like, no, she would have jumped in and head first, no matter what was going on. The anime was like, well, they did something different, in my opinion, to have the other girl like, I'm not really gonna do this. Like, I'm not gonna go on your adventures. You do it by yourself. I'm out. That was kind of interesting for that. But she eventually warmed up to the idea. But I think it was a cool dynamic having how she was just like against the whole thing the whole time. But again, gets roped into it eventually.
Yeah, that's either one of two viewpoints that an anime character can have. Either they are completely up for this thing,
Right.
or they want to have nothing to do with it. So both those two characters did that, and I've kind of appreciated how they presented the wildness, the bizarreness of Pure Illusion, and they give you an opportunity to see it two different ways.
Right, yeah, the Pure Illusion worlds were pretty interesting, just seeing
Mm-hmm.
how each of them are different. And I know we've talked about in our recordings that each
Yeah.
episode has a different tone to it.
Yep.
Like the first episode
Well,
they go to the snow area, and it's more like kind of
yeah.
playful, not so dark. But as you get closer and closer to the other episodes, you realize the story's going to get darker and darker as each episode goes on.
Well, looking at it early on, I couldn't quite piece it together, but with Kokona and Papika, that viewpoint that they saw, two different people looking at Pure Illusion and seeing two different things, that was the greater part.
Uh-huh.
And then in comes Yayaka going, nope, this isn't for play. This is for work. We have things to do, okay?
Yeah, the third.
And then
third
she was that was great because she was allowed to be the no fun character.
Uh-huh.
And then that started off her arc right there. So you had to know. I mean, Papika held it all together. She was the crazy backbone that exemplified everything that was going on. Kokona resisted, so that was our entry into it. And then they added Yayaka, which is our secondary entry into it,
Right.
which is okay. Let's get down to business and find out. I mean, the goofy, crazy Sakuga animation is great, but there's got to be a point, and Yayaka was good for that.
Yeah, I think because her group's like the more militarized group that's just in there to get it done. They're not there to explore or have fun. They're just there to get the jewel and get out of there. They obviously, being more military, they have more weapons too. Like guns and stuff and all that. While
there's
don't really have that. I mean,
there's an organizing principle
Right.
behind that they have. They have they have a specific goal, but then again, so does Flip Flop organization. They have the same thing as well, but whereas one seemed to be a bit obvious. Flip Flappers, their reasons were kind of occulted until later.
Right. Yeah.
They were the rebels. They were the spoilers. They were the bad guys.
Right. Yeah. And, so one thing I've noticed about one story element that kind of caught me was the grandma character. I know this episode a while back where she, to me, gave out this creepy vibe of not. Eventually we do learn that she was a robot the entire time. But yeah, this episode, I think after the Mad Max episode when she gets back, or maybe it's before the Halloween one, whatever, that the grandma just kind of sat there in the hallway staring at her. And I was like,
Yep.
that's
Oh,
kinda
yeah.
creepy. Like, she's not saying a word to her, and she said, like, don't do that again. And I was like, well, it's kind of... And plus, every morning she's sitting at the bed, at the end of the bed, just watching her. I'm like, that's a little weird. I mean,
Yeah, it's a little
not
weird.
gonna,
Definitely.
But
I
then
have now memorized 15 distinct breathing patterns that you give off. I can counteract 14 of them now.
Right. I guess speaking of the episodes, what was your guys' favorite episode, maybe least favorite episode? I mean, Nat, you can go first. You want that one?
I would say 8. 8 was probably my least favorite. And I mean,
Which one
honestly,
was that? Just to help me out there.
the Tron, like robot one.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean,
yeah.
and here's the thing, like, it's actually a very, like, solid episode. But there are two things that just really, really caught me. Like, first of all, episodes 5 to 7 are about Kokona's, like, self-discovery kind of reaching its point. So, like, when you have such a strong set of, like, 5, 6, 7, and then you just kind of go back to, like, the original format of, like, episodes 1 through 3, it's just like a step down. So it's like, oh, like, whoa, okay, like, we're back to that. But the main reason why I just found it to kind of be a weak point was, and like, honestly, usually this doesn't bother me, and it is there in Flip Floppers, but usually the fan service in Flip Floppers is like 2% of an episode. It's like very weird fan service, like very uncomfortable, skeevy kind of stuff, but it's like 2%, so it's not a big deal, right?
Yeah.
In episode 8, it's like ramped up to 40% of the episode. Like,
I always
and
should
it's
try to look for thematic reasons about why they do that, or why is there a specific reason and why they're doing this. And I like that you mentioned percentages, because it seems to be that cut and dried. A producer comes along and says, hey, look, we got merch to sell. We need some curves.
Yeah, I mean, like, and it's like, I mean, I don't mind, like, and even if it was like,
Oh,
tied into like, Kokona's like sexual exploration of herself, like that'd be fine. But there's like this blatant shot where it's
Oh, right, yeah, we
like
talked
that
about.
one shot where it's like her butt just takes up the entire frame, and it just gets knocked off by a very peculiar looking object that is like right on her clitoris, and you're just like, okay, this is
Right,
something
yeah.
that's happening.
The control,
Okay,
yeah, I had a problem with
sure.
that too. The controls they're grabbing look very, I'm like, okay, well, I know what they're doing here. Obviously,
I
yeah.
they're
know.
providing
And
someone to do
Well,
this.
yeah.
I mean, that kind of goes into what the really bizarre kind of assessment I have for the entire series. It was the most wonderful anime about ovulation and childbirth.
Yeah, like I mean, it's
And
like
so for that to happen, you obviously have to have overt. I mean, because sex is overt, man. There's nothing. There's
oh
nothing
yeah,
like
yeah,
it.
no, it's
So
just
so yeah,
it
you kind
felt
of have to
very
have that metaphor
steamy.
fulfill itself.
Like, I mean, and like for example, like the second episode has them biting on things, right? It's like this gnawing need to salivate. I'm just like, y'all are fucking horny, Like, okay, you're horny, but it's fine, right? Because it's like in this like thematic, like kind of visual, symbolic way, which just like fits with the whole tone of the show. You're
Yeah,
having like girls like suit up, go for like mecha, and like you get
yeah. Well,
just these
they're
random
going into
shots.
boys' territory, ain't they? When you get right down to it.
Yeah, but at the same time,
And the
it's
boy
like,
is and the boy in that episode is small. He's tiny.
oh
He's
yeah, yeah,
almost
yeah.
he's
No,
almost
absolutely.
toy-like and different things like that. So they're playing around with that because
Oh yeah, yeah.
I think it's damn time that they have stories where women take charge of their own sexuality
Oh
and
yeah, absolutely.
define it the
I
way they
mean,
want to.
yeah, like I think, and there was actually a really good theory I think that was brought up at that time where like every world is correlated with a certain character's
Yeah,
perspective, right? So like you know, and so we all came to the general consensus that episode 8 was from the scientist's point of view, and
right,
the
yeah,
scientist was controlling Boo, who is a perverted kind of robot. So I
yeah,
mean, like
Id
from
robot. He was the id robot.
yeah.
That was it. I mean, he
right.
even expressed his id with the kanji character on his little eyeball thingy.
Well,
Yeah,
It's
well,
like legs.
absolutely.
even early on, in like even in the opening, you clearly see him on the train, looking up these girl's skirt. So
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
Oh
he
yeah,
is
yeah,
the yeah.
He was looking for the amorphous
Right, yeah,
leg.
no, but still, that's like,
yeah. Right.
they can't, it's on the train. Come
Yeah,
on, like,
like first episode, you got like these hentai like tentacles going around and like kidnapping these girls, and you're just like, okay,
right. And even
I guess this is a thing that's happening.
you have episode 3, you
Um,
have the plant girl doing the same thing to her, running her
oh yeah,
arm,
yeah,
hand
yeah.
up her
No, the
skirt.
show is
You know,
super horny.
right,
Like it's, I mean, I love it. I love that it's super
right.
horny.
And
It's
even
like
in
a
the same
great
episode,
horny.
there's like this alien orgy going on at the fountain. With all these girls like
Yeah,
tied up and
like
bondage.
what the
Yeah, well,
heck?
there you go.
I mean, I thought I was for a second there. I thought I never mentioned this during our third episode podcast, Wash, or if anyone that got it, but it felt like I was watching like a version of like Dune
Yeah,
that Javier Jodorowsky was supposed to do back in the late '70s that never got off the ground, and he had like French artist Moebius like design all the backgrounds, and there was all these weird twisted sexual imagery going on, and that kind of made me feel like like some weird Fremen kind of kind of sexual
Yeah,
orgy fountain because
just
yeah,
yeah.
they get hot and charged up when they get in contact with water in the middle of the desert.
right. I mean, but yeah, I kind of agree on the mecha episode. But for me, just being a huge mecha fan, I love the episode. Just on the robot parts. They had they went full 80s with the transformed robots, and they have the theme music playing in the
Yeah,
background. And
it's great.
even when you look at the robot design, it's based off an old 80s cartoon or an old 80s like Power Rangers show, and the robots are exactly the same name. So basically, it was like a I guess a love letter to that series.
Yeah.
So they're like, hey, we remember the classics, so they put that in there. Even the
Oh
way to
yeah.
defeat the boss, I think, was the same way as they did in those shows. So it was kind of cool to seeing that, paying tribute to that. But yeah, overall, like the sexual stuff was like, eh. Even the little guy scientist makes a comment that you pushed her in the box thing to get in the robot. Just basically like get your big ass in there.
Get your
He
big ass
shoves
in
her
there.
in there and just. But
Because
yeah,
from his perspective, it was an incredibly big butt.
uh
Because he's a small person.
right. But at the same time, the episode also introduced the first time Yayaka kind of questions her alliance with her group. Like she's like,
Yeah.
well, I have to. Obviously, she has to help them in order to survive all that. But yeah.
That goes back to my favorite one, which is episode 6, which was or episode 5,
Uh-huh.
kind of tied up in together with 6, which was the one about Iroha.
Oh, it's so good.
Oh yeah.
It made
yeah.
me cry. It made me
episode
cry.
7
God,
was
yes.
just like,
Yeah.
Because
episode 7 is my favorite.
If you take these shows sometimes as young people growing and realizing responsibility and realizing a bit of adulthood, it was one of those things to where they looked at this from the perspective of not their gain at all, and even Yayaka looked at that. You know, this was about someone's fragile mind. This was about someone hurting that they could heal just by being kind to them, and that is an incredibly powerful thing to remember, a thing to learn, is to just be kind to someone, and you can help 1,000,000,000%. Don't be a dick. Be kind. And
Right.
you know, that's something that 13 and 14-year-olds who just they in that age group, they just get into such a solipsistic state, such a selfish state. They can't help themselves. They have to. So it's good to have that reminder. And the one that made me cry the most was when they realized how alone they were in their own little individual time frames, and their little girl bit when they were smaller and younger, realizing how alone they were and how happy they were to see each other when they finally reunited in the middle of that dream within a dream within a dream. It's just like, oh my God, that's amazing.
Yeah, the episode's pretty nice because the color scheme too, just showing off the emotions of each scene. You know,
Yep.
you got the red scene where the parents are arguing and the animations are distorted and it's weird looking and it got kind of
Because that's
scary
like-
looking, with a little bit of
that's
heart
like-
in there. And then you got the blue scenes where obviously it's the more depressed scenes, and the yellow obviously being happier. So I thought it was cool how they kind of used the colors to also tell the story without even having to have a lot of dialogue going on.
Oh yeah.
And especially the subject of dealing with people who are losing their memories. You know, that's almost a subject almost anyone can kind of sort of relate to. Whoever has like grandparents or a family like that, you can kind of see that
Me.
most people can experience that.
Yeah,
Have
absolutely.
So,
Yeah, no, I mean, it's hard. It's really hard to say. I can't choose between 5, 6, and 7 because I like them all for very different reasons.
Yeah.
I think overall, I think 6 is probably my favorite. It's like just fantastic from beginning to end.
is that the one with the different papikas walking around? There's like a guy versions, all kinds of versions of her.
No, that's episode 7.
Okay.
Episode 6 is the one with the memory.
Right.
Episode
The same
5
one
is
I was talking
the ghost Yuri
Oh, yeah.
ghost. That one's just so good. It's so hard to make horror stories in anime that work effectively.
Yeah, for me that's the biggest thing of anime. Horror is one of those things like I don't really get versus like a regular horror movie I'll get scared of, but this is like in anime it's very hard to do that. Like you said, I guess it's all about lighting and making it feel like it's creepy.
Yeah, it's tough, and like the fact that they did it so well is just like incredible. It's great. I love it. So episode 6 is probably a strong one. Episode 7, as you guys have noted, is like just an emotional ride from beginning to end. It's just, it's filled with a lot of interesting use of, direction. Thematically, I love how at the end, it doesn't really denote the change as good or bad. It just is. Like, you see Iroha at the end throwing away her paintings, and like Kokona is just like absolutely like stunned by the idea that she would do something like that. But like on the other hand, she's a lot more happy, I guess you could define it if you could define it like that, and
Right.
she can paint her fingernails, and it's great. So I like the ending of that particularly, and then. Episode 7, I don't know, episode 7 is more of a personal thing for me just because it reflects a lot of how I kind of went through my own kind of self-evaluation in terms of queer identity. Like, she's just like channeling through these different types of relationships she could be having with this person, right? Like, oh, maybe she's just like a little sister to me.
Right,
Or,
yeah.
maybe she's like, she's got these fiendish kind of boyish qualities in that sense. So maybe she just, likes him as a boy, ? And then
Right.
I think there's like this very beautiful scene, like probably one of my probably my favorite, or one of my most favorite scenes from the show is like at the very end where she's in this love hotel and like Paprika's
I
like a
mean,
succubus,
Yeah, that was cool.
and
it's pretty blatant,
it's
isn't it?
pretty blatant. And I mean, like, but you know, the dialogue shared between them is just so honest. I think it's like, you know, she's just like, do I love you for who you are, or do I just love this image of you? And
Hmm.
you know, the succubus Paprika is like, you know, you can love me for whoever I am or whoever, you know, you want me to be. And she realizes that, you know, she just loves Paprika, and that's
Yeah.
really there is all there is to it.
There's a
Um,
there's a lot of different reasons for you to love me. You can pick one anytime you need.
exactly. You know, like I
Right.
can be anything to you. I can be many things to you, and you know, you can accept all of that. And that like realization, plus the fact that you know when she gets out of that tunnel, she is the person who had been lost, not you know Paprika. And that kind of realization for her is like that emotional realization for her is just so good. Like I don't think anything in a long time for me personally has encapsulated that kind of thought process or like joy in realizing you can be comfortable with your own identity. So that like that I don't know, for that reason I really like episode 7, but like you guys said, episode 6 is great too.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, episode
so
seven's pretty good. I like that, and she even Coconut even thinks about the temptation of staying in that world. She's like, I could stay here. This
yeah,
is more fun, and she does have this little
Hmm.
montage of having fun with all of them. So it tells you that she did have. It doesn't say how long she's been there, but she was there for a while, kind of experiencing that world.
yeah,
I think one of my
it,
favorites was like early on, maybe episode 3, the Mad Max one. It was just so,
Yeah.
so good.
it was just a big surprise. I'm like, this is a combination of Pretty Cure, Dragon Ball Z. We got Mad Max, all kinds of stuff thrown in there, and the magical girl. When they first transformed, a lot of people had issues, but I thought it was cool just seeing them fight. Just the the raw strength these girls have. But also it helped that they're on a different planet, so the planet, I guess, the atmosphere helped them to be. Yeah, but yeah, for me it was just based watching Dragon Ball Z with girls doing the fighting instead, because they even eat the food that restores all their power and they get stronger again. They start fighting again. They gotta fight a big monster at the end, which that monster was like was caught me out. It caught me off just like being the most entertaining mini boss I've ever seen in anime. Just how she was just like using him and tricking him, and then revealed who she really was, and then you finally see just this horrible alien planet. You're like, oh, I'm glad they took her out, but it was just cool to seeing that. Obviously they seen Mad Max a few times. You could say to throw that out there. And even I think near the end of the series, we see a poster in her room that was the Mad Max poster. So I was like, where did she think of that world? Was it in her head? Did she think of that and it happened? Because there's all posters in that one girl's room. So I thought it was pretty interesting just seeing that. And it was
Yeah,
a show.
that was cool.
It's showcasing obviously the animation too. Like what can they do with all this with this style, and they can go and they had to fight her again, a rematch. But Yayaka this time got the chance to fight her, and her scene was cool. Just seeing her transform for the first time was like, pretty neat.
evens
Absolutely.
evens everything out, and then you had the dark transformation of Mimi at the end there as well to balance that too.
Right, we can probably talk about those episodes. But I think that's the second half that was a little weird, where they started focusing on. Well, we all want to know who Mimi was, because she was mentioned early on in the series, and I was like, Mimi, is she Paika's mom? But or they do reveal obviously it's Coconuts' mom, and it's like the splitting image of her clone, I guess you could say. It's like it's weird how they look act like her mom, like 100%. But it's fine. But those episodes were a little weird. I mean, for me, it felt like I was watching a little mini arc of like Stranger Things, because it's about obviously a girl in a lab being experimented on, and
Hmm.
Yeah.
Mimi's the same way. She's being experimented on. And they don't really explain how her power works, but maybe I missed it. But what do you guys think of I guess that arc with Mimi and the past? I
Well,
guess.
it certainly is. Like I said, there's that feeling of growing adolescence when you get
Uh
right down to it. Realizing that you have power beyond yourself
huh.
to affect other people and do different things like that. It's also kind of a realization of how people are looking at you. Because little children, especially little girls, are kind of used to a lot of a bit of attention doled out to them, and then when they get older, the attention kind of changes a great degree, and then sometimes it changes by degrees once they get to be around that age, and so there's a sense of empowerment. There's also a sense of loss as well, and I thought that the last arc was trying to trying to make that into a big, huge metaphor as much as it possibly could without losing it.
Right.
I think it might have lost that a little bit if that was indeed the theme or the metaphor of what it was going for.
Right.
But it was.
I felt bad for Mimi because they, she had this baby and they took the baby from her. So I felt a little bad for her because that it's like, she wasn't necessarily evil when she first started out. She was just, they took her child from her, so she has every right to be mad at that Flip Flappers organization because like they took her kid, by force, and she had to go through all this stuff.
Oh.
And, all that stuff happened to her. But
Society demands that you give your kid away. You got to send him to school.
right.
So I mean, well, there's this weird thing if you pull out and look at it in a different way. You raise kids, you give resources that you could use to children.
Right.
They're your resources. Why are you giving them this screaming little thing? Because it's cute? Because it's the law? I mean, what? I mean, why are you giving your stuff away to someone that's not going to be able to pay you back?
Right.
And then when they grow up and leave the house, guess what? They're competing for the resources. You lose both ways. To what? Just watch a thing grow up? I mean, what's the point? So there's a certain aspect where it's kind of looking at that as like, that's where the love comes in. That's where that really and truly becomes exemplified and something special and something unique. And yeah, you give birth to a baby and society kind of takes it away and shapes it in ways that you might not be consciously aware of.
Mm-hmm.
So you get
Yeah, I think, I know a lot of people had a little bit of, issues with the Mimi arc.
Mm-hmm.
But first, and I went back, actually, after episode 12, I think, before the finale.
Mm-hmm.
And, I was like, oh, let me, rewatch some episodes for a post I was writing.
Right.
And, I watched the first episode, and there was a lot of foreshadowing, about Mimi, in episode 1 only. And I didn't even go to episode 2 or 3. So, I think the complaints about how kind of off track the arc felt are kind of, I wouldn't say weirdly placed, but I don't know. I didn't think, it was a bad arc at all. In fact, I thought it was a very fitting arc, especially when the majority of the show was devoted to Kokona kind of slowly gaining this confidence to, express herself and find out who she wanted to be, who she is, and then, finally come to terms with it by, facing her parent. Who better of an enemy to face than, a mother, especially in these kind of cultures where mothers, are supposed to, mothers know best, mothers, have so much love for their children. And the show does take the time to show you that, Mimi does love Kokona in her own kind of way.
Right. Even if it's a little mind control.
Even if it's very selfish.
Right.
Yeah. And, one thing I definitely, agree with, maybe being in an Asian household myself is that, parents love their children. They can definitely love them, but sometimes in the only way they think happiness exists,
yeah.
And I think the show tackled that, very, very well, because it's
good
clear
for bringing that up.
Yeah. The Mimi loves Kokona. She doesn't want to destroy and kill her.
Right. She doesn't want to lock her in her prison cell.
Right.
But sometimes parents do.
Right. Sometimes.
But yeah, exactly.
Sometimes parents do. Sometimes we have to screw up to win.
Yeah.
Right.
We end up destroying a little bit of our kids' happiness.
Exactly.
To kind of steer them in the right direction, or steer them what we hope to be in the right direction.
Right.
Because the damn things don't come. The damn things eat everything you have in your house, and they don't come with instructions. Don't know why we even bother.
Yeah, I mean, parenthood is not something that's taught, right? Like, I think that's one of the things people realize is like
it's something
it's
that's
something you just kind of end up learning, and
Right.
God forbid you make a couple mistakes in the process. But I think
right.
I do really appreciate that the show never really villainized Mimi. It definitely showed her as in the wrong or
Right.
misunderstanding,
Well, and
but
until they showed her as
never.
like a giant lizard monster. Then I was like,
Yeah,
okay,
but
that's a
even
little
then, it
much.
was like it's a manifestation of
Right.
anger, and
Right. Her
we all
Yeah,
get angry at people we care about. I mean, that's
Right.
kind
Yeah.
of the point.
yeah.
If we didn't care, we wouldn't be angry.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
Screw you.
um,
I don't care about you.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's not like Mimi was just like clearly Kokona, like you no longer are important to me, so I'm just going to like destroy you and
Right.
never care about you again. Um, there's that whole conversation, like I think in episode 9, no 11, I think it's 11, where actually 12, sorry, where Paprika and Yayaka come over and they're like, Mimi, you know what you're doing isn't right, and she's just like, aren't I supposed to know what's best for my daughter? Like,
Right. Yeah.
like this is a world that tried to take her away from me.
Mhm.
Like, why is it so wrong for me to like want to be with her and be with her? Like,
Right.
and it shows you her perspective.
Right. And keep
And
everybody else away because
yeah,
obviously influencing her. That's what I think how
and
he
like
sees it.
I mean, in that perspective, when you're Mimi and you have literally lived your entire life like
Yeah.
in a
Trapped.
cage,
Right. They're not
and
letting
you're
her
not
go
allowed to
anywhere.
even see your daughter, like I think her rage and her selfishness is kind of warranted, like
Right. Yeah.
So
Yeah. That's what I
um
was saying earlier. They did a good job showing you her perspective on things that
yeah,
yeah. It's like her life is screwed up just as much as Coconuts. Coconut had
yeah.
both parents take away from her. Well, it's like it's hard to feel with Dr. Saul. Like him, it's like did he just leave her? It's like
Dr.
I
Salt
don't know.
is just a weird guy.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
If there is
It's the
one
dude.
complaint I had with this show, it's how
Yeah.
it lacked a kind of proper perspective for Dr. Salt, because he just
Yeah. He's kind of
like
inserted into two separate places where you're just like kind of left figuring out what are you doing
like
here?
yeah, what are you doing
Especially
here?
there's that one scene that kind of was like kind of stuck out to me where he's like he sees me with the baby and he's just like confused where it came from. Like obviously, come
Yeah,
on, duh, wake up, dude. Doesn't come out thin air.
You
You
don't.
want a
Yeah.
kid, you know. But I
yeah,
took it as
like
more like before Paprika and Coconut left for that year prior. I guess she was gonna tell him that she's pregnant, but then she didn't get a chance to. So I guess I could see
yeah,
that way why he was surprised, but at the same time, like you said, he's not a very interesting character. I always wrote him off as being just another Gendo. He's just
yeah. He
there.
Yeah.
really was. I
Yeah.
mean, granted, considering how many nods the show
Oh
had to
God, yes.
Evangelion,
Gendo
Giant,
Light with
the giant
half
mecha,
with even
yeah.
less calories than that, you know.
The giant mecha
yeah,
episode is purely a shout out to Eva as well because the monster they're fighting is like the berserker form of the one of the Evas.
yeah.
It's the same design.
Like, I mean, I feel like they could have gone into his motivations, especially because, like, first of all, he doesn't even talk to his child.
No.
Second of all, like, you don't even understand what his motivations for, like, analyzing pure illusion is. And then third of all, like, he gets very minimum screen time with the Mimi, which makes, like, their relationship or, like, I don't know, like,
Right.
very interesting. Like, there's that whole conversation where she's just like, yeah, you fucked up, man. Like, you fucked up, and you're fucking up again. And he's like, yeah, I'm sorry. And I'm like, are you? Because like these
Right.
past 10 episodes, you haven't been doing shit. Like,
Right.
what have you been up to?
It's like I want to be like it's sad when the robot. It's more I can understand the robot more than I understand you.
Yeah.
I understand his motives,
Ah.
but
Like,
Dr. Saul is kind of like go find some stones.
Yeah. He literally lives up to his name for no reason.
Yeah, that's true. He's just there. He's like well.
He's just like salty about everything and
Or
for
like
no
the
reason at
or like the
all.
little blue-haired twin-tail girl from the other organization. She was more understandable
Yeah.
than freaking Dr. Saul.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like whatever.
Yeah. It's her, Yu, I think they end up
Yeah.
calling her, the new one.
Mhm.
And
Twins, yeah.
the twins, there's people I'm still
yeah.
scratching my head about how they kind of fit into it, other than like odd supporting cast. You know,
Uh-huh.
and it's like that and adult Yayaka or adult Papika.
Yeah, that whole thing was confusing
I
too.
can't figure that out
Because I
either.
was like, okay, she was older in the past. They sent her back. What did she like? Reverse Benjamin Button, age here.
I
What we
think
doing
if we're
here?
going along with like how your parents are very influential, how Mimi is very influential to her daughter,
Uh-huh.
about how your friend is also a huge influence, and so they're at the same age,
Right. And
it falls apart right there.
also a little
It
weird
doesn't
that
make any sense.
Paprika, the older one, eventually turns back to a kid and falls for Mimi's daughter. It's kind of like that's a little weird. That's a little time travel, little mess up there.
Yeah,
But
well, I mean,
I mean, she changed back to a kid and age from there. That's fine. I just thought it was a little weird, like
That
hooking
that
up with a baby that you raised.
sometimes we don't get to
Yeah.
it's
choose.
honestly like like people are like, wow, they came out of nowhere, and I kind
Uh-huh.
of it kind of does, but at the
Right.
same time, the
Makes
show is
sense.
so bizarre that it's just
It
like when
is.
it happened, like that revelation happened, I was like, okay, whatever, like okay, that's a thing, sure.
Yeah.
It's
Uh,
the thing that is happening
and
now. It's wonderful.
and just like everyone just started making jokes about like how Paprika would just like listen to Mimi's belly and be like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
I'm gonna date your baby.
Yeah, I've seen that too. I've seen.
Oh my God, it's from
Yeah.
Twilight. It's from the end of Twilight.
I've seen.
You know,
I've
I'm
seen
gonna.
drawings too, where people are just like, she's raising the baby, and like one day, me and you are gonna. I'm like, okay, that's a little no, that's a little weird. I mean,
I'm gonna use my
but
pure illusion powers to de-age
right,
myself, and it's on.
have this all planned out. I'm gonna date you when I'm,
I
you know,
sincerely hope
X
that
amount.
there is an interview with Oshiyama in the Blu-rays. I am getting the Blu-rays, so I don't know. I'll like post them and hopefully someone will translate them about that because I am genuinely curious about how he came up with that.
Yeah, that idea is pretty interesting, but also kind of weird
Like, where on earth did he like just go with the crew and be like, okay, guys, Paprika, who Kokona is in love with and who loves Kokona, is actually Mimi's gay best friend
who helped raise her.
and helped raise her and then shrunk back into a kid to help fall in love with Mimi's child. Like,
Hmm.
how did that get passed into like a crew room? Like, the people were just like, oh yeah, sure, that sounds great. Like, let's just
Well,
put that in.
remember, Papika was kind of punished because she was put in that cage,
Right,
Mm-hmm.
and then Kokona had to come and rescue her.
and
So Kokona got to make that choice. It wasn't just Papika's choice to do that.
Uh-huh.
It
Well,
takes
if
two.
I remember correctly, didn't Mimi just give her the baby? She's like, oh, here,
yeah, I
have
think
this
so.
baby.
Yeah, yeah, I think so.
And Papa goes like, okay.
There's that year gap there they didn't show us that when she was born and when they raised her. There's like a gap still. They didn't really tell us what happened during all that. You know, if Pepika was mainly taking care of Coconut the whole time, or was it sharing, or they don't really show you what that. But yeah, I mean the meme.
I mean, the show has never been like. I'm not going to say this is a show that really focuses on explaining all of its plot details. It never
Right.
has been that kind
No.
of show. So honestly, for having for escape thinking too deeply into those things, I feel if you are the person to do that, the show.
Right.
I don't know how you got through the show in the first place because like every every world has been kind of symbolic, and I think that the plot details are there for more of like a thematic purpose than like, oh, this is what happened in this sequential order with this logical purpose. It's more of this is very all abstract, and you're supposed to have fun enjoying it, but you can also go ahead and like kind of try and dig deep and see if there's a certain theme or like significance to this particular image or
Right.
part of the show.
Right. A lot of like metaphor, like you were saying. It's up to interpretation and how you view episodes, and like, one person may enjoy it just because it's purely animation, like I was saying in the beginning, or they may just like the story, or the characters. For me, I think it's a little bit of the whole package for me, everything. So I guess while we're talking about that, overall thoughts of like, would you guys recommend people watch this, or?
Yes.
I know Skyline, you wanted to recommend it to maybe a younger audience, but because you have friends that have kids, but
Sometimes people are a bit flighty about things like that, and sometimes they're not because, like Natasha mentioned, some of them girls get horny, And so
Right.
there's some things happening in there, which is like, what, you watch this? I'm like, yeah, I watch this. I'm perfectly fine with it. Wow, you're weird, dude. And
Right.
I'm like, no, it's a
No, it's
cartoon.
fine.
It's a
Yeah.
Yeah.
cartoon. But some people look at that and they get real judgmental on your ass,
Right.
and it's just one of those things to where it's like, if you have friends that are very, very open-minded, by all means, recommend this to them and say, hey,
Right.
this will probably float your boat. There's a lot to think about here.
Mhm.
Or you could just watch it for the animation and how kooky Papika is,
Right.
you know.
There was an interview with Oshiyama where he was like, one of the best compliments or the things that made me really happy was like this general consensus amongst the audience where they had no idea what was happening, but they really enjoyed the show, but they couldn't explain why they liked it. It was just like interesting.
That's something of a sticking point, because I've noticed that a lot of people really enthused about shows, and it's like, okay, well, what was the show about? I have no idea. It's like, well, then how do you know you liked it?
Well, and I
Yeah.
mean, like, I think that's like a defining point, right? Like, you don't need to necessarily have a story or like a
Yeah.
logical narrative in order to enjoy something. It can just be fun. And I think Flip Flappers is like, actually, I don't want to like completely point it in this direction, but it reminds me a lot of Ikuhara's Penguin Drum in the sense that there's
Okay.
obviously a
Yeah.
lot going underneath the surface. But one of the things I think it succeeds in the area that Penguin Drum doesn't is that Penguin Drum is so heavily based on its symbolism for its themes that you
Mhm.
kind of have to like dig deep in order to kind of maybe
Yeah.
get more out of it. Whereas Flip
Yurikuma was the
Flappers,
exact same way.
yeah. But Flip Floppers, you could really just watch it from beginning to end and be like,
And
this was
that's,
a
I
fun
think it's
show.
because the symbolism is a bit more generalized. Ikuhara has very
Oh, yeah.
he
Oh,
has
for sure.
he's masking things. He has very definitive things he is talking about.
Absolutely.
He is
and that's,
talking,
that's completely
with
fine.
He's Penguin Drum. He's talking about people dehumanizing other people. Turning
Yeah.
them
No,
to
no, no.
objects,
I mean-
turning them into fuel or different things like that. And with Yuri Kuma, it was that exact same thing. Our process of dehumanizing people. So
Right.
this kind of is it's come from the same approach, but I think the symbolism is a whole lot more generalized.
Yeah, it's a light version. But I also think
Ah.
because it's a lighter version in the sense that it's not as dense, I mean, obviously you can get so many perspectives, and we've seen such a great variety of posts on. We have Emily's posts on the art history, right? And then we had some Crunchyroll posts on the ID and ego and the psychology, right? And then we had I wrote some posts about the queer narrative of the show, and then there's a whole variety of lens that you can watch the show through.
Is there a Yuri element in it? Because my theory is that most guys overreact to that because they cannot, under any circumstance, recognize that women have closer physical contact and intimacy with each other, and it not be gay.
I definitely thought there was, and
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, that's my perspective. Like in one of the interviews, it's pretty much stated that Oshiyama definitely saw them as a pairing. But once again, it's a show that's purposely kind of abstract so that you can reflect your own perspective. Because thematically, that's the point of the show, right? It's about the
Yes.
different perspectives and narratives we see. And the importance of all of that. So I think it kind of works in either direction, right? Like you can choose to see it as like a magical girl show where cute girls are doing cool things, and or you can watch it from a perspective where you resonate with Kokona. Maybe you see her as a girl who is trying to discover and navigate through her own queer sexuality and come to terms with that by fighting a mother who doesn't approve of that. Or you can see it as something completely different. Like that's the great thing about this show. I think the reason why so many people like it or have found themselves to like it without really needing an explanation is because it can resonate, or it can it's designed so that you can enjoy it from a set of perspectives.
Right.
And I think that's a really hard thing to do because there's a fine balance between having a show that's so symbolic or so embedded in its own symbolism that you have to run through all of that or tackle that in order to kind of enjoy the show, which is perfectly fine. Like I a huge fan of Ikuhara. I love him. He's great and like probably one of my most favorite directors. But it is investment, and I think that those shows are fantastic, but it's also nice to be able to sit back and be like, hey, I don't want to think about this show. I want to enjoy it for what it is, and it doesn't look down on you for that.
Right,
And
which is why I think they have like these episodes where they have like the Mad Max one, or you have the Giant
yeah,
Robot one. It kind of
absolutely.
gives your brain a break after like digesting like episode of like drama. You're like, okay,
Right.
I need
It's
something
it's
else.
a very sincere show. I think that's what I like about it. It's extremely sincere. Like it is what it is. It's very free. It's like, so if I don't know if I can recommend Flip Floppers to everyone because it is a really weird show.
Right. Yeah.
But I love it. Like it's probably one of my most favorite shows since I think Ping Pong and Shinsekai Yori. And I'm really glad that we got something like it. I don't think it's the most perfect show. Of course,
Right.
it has its faults, but the fact that something like it was made is something I really appreciate. And on that reason, on that level, I think people should watch it. Just because I think you can enjoy it for a myriad of reasons, like, and it's really fun. Like I had a lot of fun watching it, and I don't know if I could recommend it to all of my friends, but
Right.
I think if you're into, just a fun show with some really awesome visuals, imagery, a pretty good compelling story, and if personally, in my opinion, if you're queer like me, like it's a great show to resonate with, and it offers, I think, something for everyone. So
Right. That's what I think I like about it too. It's just there's something for everybody to get from that series. Like you said,
mhm.
you can look at it from different point of views. You can go in looking at it as a medical girl or whatever you want. Like for me, it's like still the thing that a show that the last show that did that with the anime community was probably Guilty Crown, which a lot of people
Oh God,
they
yeah.
everyone watched it for different reasons. The posts that came out of that was just some of them were funny, some of them were and like this show doing the kind of opposite, just got everybody thinking. And it's not like hitting you over the head with it, or it's not like too complicated that you can't, you know, the
Yeah,
average person
it's
can't figure out what's
something,
going on.
it offers something for
Right.
everyone. So, in that opinion, and from that perspective, I would definitely recommend it. But it is a really weird show,
Right. Yeah.
and
Oh
it's not
yeah.
something I'd recommend off the bat for like people getting into anime. I'd be like, oh, you want to watch something? Here, watch Flip Lovers. Like,
Right.
no, that's not something, and it's very niche, and because it's niche, it's hard to recommend. But I think anyone who I would recommend it to, even though it may be a very specific set of people, would still like enjoy it.
Mhm. Right. What are you, Sky? I mean, I think you said you would.
Yeah, very much would if I knew the crowd well enough to where I could be able to say to him, yeah, don't get distracted by, the other
Yeah.
stuff.
Right. Yeah. Don't try to figure. It's not gonna. Don't try to figure out the puzzle before it's all complete.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
gotta, you
just
gotta wait.
experience it.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, this is a show you experience when you get right down to it. Like she
Right.
said, it's not something that you should try to figure out in one go. You will hurt yourself.
I think the last one that did that was probably for me was like Kyusagiga did that. Whereas like you gotta wait to the very end and you finally get the whole picture and everything. You're like, okay, now it makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
But anything last thoughts on the show? I mean, anything else probably left out? Maybe a discussion you wanted to say or
Definitely,
yeah,
definitely nominated as one of my favorites of the season, if not one of the best ones.
yeah, it was definitely a surprise. Yeah,
Yeah,
I don't think I've been as that surprised since like One Punch Man, which was a while back. So I don't know.
yeah,
Here?
I definitely think it was my favorite of the year. I wrote like a little 12 Days of Christmas post on why I think I really enjoyed it, but like obviously I have my own personal reasons. But I think no, it was just it was just really really nice to get a show like it. Like just you don't get these type of shows anymore, or they come by very rarely. So for us to kind of get something like that is
Right.
really awesome, and I appreciate that, and I hope that it encourages more directors kind of approach things in a more art house kind of way, but also like in a fun way, in a sincere way.
Yeah. Yep. Anything else, Skyline?
Nope.
All right. Well,
Yeah, I'm good.
yeah, I don't really have anything else either. I just, I had a lot of fun with this, and again, it's fun just, seeing everyone's perspectives on the show. you know, a lot of people, like you said, approach it differently, and I think that's kind of unique for this show. I guess yeah, I'll link all your net stuff in the post, and you guys can check out the blog. It's pretty good. I don't comment much on there, but I do read and do get updates when you guys update your blog and stuff. So
Yeah, make sure you put that information on our blog post for when you direct people to the podcast.
right, we'll do. Well, I guess that's it for this. I guess we'll see you guys next time for whenever we do another series review.